In this video we're going to go over several different ways to do power leveling. Now, unlike power leveling in most other games, it's about getting the most amount of tactic in the least amount of time. In this game, it's kind of the opposite. Power leveling takes a lot of time, but you're getting more tactic for your resets, which are a relatively limited resource. At early levels, some of the best things to do is, one, if you're doing pirate fights, having a rapid swapper and a science set will get you more tactic for the fights. Of course, the higher tactic, this becomes ineffective. And the same thing is true for building creators. At earlier levels, you get a decent amount of tactic for the capsules you're spending on building. Higher levels, this becomes ineffective. Now, at higher levels, one of the easiest ways to actually gain tactic is through finishing quests. These will normally give you a good amount of tactic, as well as a nice bonus to upgradium, sometimes nukes, and sometimes improvements, which you can use to get more resets, or other various things. For this tactic, it's usually best to have a low jump cost, because you'll be jumping all over and possibly making hundreds of jumps in a single day. So having a low jump cost or even free jumps is best for this. Best way to go about this is when you have your quests filled up and you have the galaxy full of pirates. Any galaxy with a little green mark in the upper left hand side will have pirates with quest cores in them. So you just jump to that galaxy, and then you fight pirates individually until you get the quest cores you want. Now, don't do multi-fights with this, as you don't want to actually try and clear galaxies. Unless you get a high boss percentage and you want to start hunting bosses while you do this. Another important thing to take note of is the galaxy I'm in currently only has one type of pirate, but some galaxies have two different pirates. So make sure the pirate you're attacking is going to be one that's for a quest, and the only real way to do that is to actually arrow over your quest and find which one was for the galaxy that you're currently in. Now, as far as actually killing the pirates to get the quest cores, assault attacks would save you reset kits, so you can do this for a longer period of time. But of course, you make little to no profit with assault attacks, and if you can't get free jumps, then you're most likely going to be losing capsules from all the jumping you'll be doing. It's of course less reset friendly, but chaining attacks will normally give you the profit you need to keep going at this for a longer period of time. So then, of course, when you destroy the group, make sure you check your cores. If it says quest in it, stop right there and turn in the quest. Then buy a new one. And of course, go right back to the map and find a new galaxy. Now, what's normally best to do is, if you have a quest for a specific pirate but not a specific core, the reward is less than the ones for a specific pirate and a specific core, but you can always get them with killing one pirate. So doing any of those type of quests first will allow you to continue this for a longer period of time. Now, another type of quest type there is the one that's just for a specific core. It doesn't matter what pirate it comes from. It's usually best to save these until you're at the point where you have to do the specific core from a specific pirate quest, because you'll normally have cores left over that may match the type of core you need for these quests. And don't forget, throughout the course of doing this, every once in a while, check on your Colossus's available quests and refill it if it gets out or just about out. This won't so much be something that would help you in particular while doing this, but it doesn't actually cost you any capsules. It just kind of helps out your Colossus as you're doing this. Now, the advantages of doing quests for power leveling are it's a very good tactic for reset ratio, as well as the advantage of being able to get nukes from the missions, and every once in a while some improvement wrenches, which you can of course use to get more resets to continue doing this, or do other things with them. The disadvantages, of course, will be any loss of capsules from not being able to get free jump costs, as well as potentially less bosses from not clearing the galaxies right away. It is, of course, very time consuming too. In the long run, this is one of the easiest ways for gaining large amounts of tactic. Another strategy for gaining a lot of tactic is galaxy nuking. Now, some things, of course, that would be key for doing this is to unlock the unlimited nuking distance at 110,000 tactic, so you don't need to jump around and waste capsules with jumping to actually nuke different galaxies when their galaxy knowledge starts to get up really high. As well as having a unique device that lowers the cost of nuking. And then, of course, a good supply of both reset kits and the nukes, which, if you pay attention to the previous strategy, doing pirate quests is one of the best ways to actually generate the nukes. You of course get some from clearing galaxies, as well as a good amount from harvesting. And then if you can manage to get more than 30 flight engine traps from the slot machine, you can actually make the nukes until you're under 30 engine traps. And of course, there's 2 different nuke planets for making a slow but steady stream of the nukes. Now, depending on your ability to generate the nukes, the most cost efficient of both resets and the nukes combined is the 300-300, which goes down to 240-240 nuking. But if you're unable to actually produce a significant amount of the nukes, but are able to produce a lot of reset kits, or if you're spending blacks on buying reset kits, the 1100, which goes down to 880 with a unique device, would be essentially your next best option. And then if you have enough emergency reset kits to reset a generator, I recommend doing one of the 18-hour nuke attacks for the bonus tactic and massive amount of more galaxy knowledge. So essentially, if you tie this in with the last strategy of doing pirate quests, you do pirate quests, it'll generate a lot of nukes, and if you actually clear any galaxies of pirates, you can just nuke them right away, and in an hour you'll have that galaxy back. Now, the advantages of doing this is nuke attacks is a fast way to generate H doubles, of course the tactic, some colony points, and a lot of galaxy knowledge, as well as produce a lot of bosses. Of course, the downsides to this are it costs a massive amount of reset kits and the nukes to do continuously, and you can essentially burn up your entire day's worth of reset kits within a matter of minutes. And then the nukes are quite a rare commodity unless you're doing quests or have a lot of other ways to get them. This strategy is going to involve using pulverizing to gain tactic. Now this strategy takes a lot of prep work and not everyone can do it. First, you need the maximum construction to get minimum build cost, which is 6,500 construction. It's also helpful to have the unique device that reduces the building cost of stations by another 5%. And then the most important part for making this work, you need to be able to make at least 2,800 upgradium per reset kit. Now this part is of course easier at higher cyborg levels as you get a discount on buying upgradium. But one easy way to go about it is to do the previous strategy of doing pirate quests, as they give you a good amount of upgradium per quest. So essentially how this plan works is you of course pulverize, and you only use heavy pulverize. Now this will give you, for each pulverize, of course 15 tactic and 1 power improvement. So of course you're gaining the tactic every one, and the power improvement you turn in for 15 regular improvements, and then every time you get 20 regular improvements you can turn them in for reset kits. Which another important thing to have for this is to be able to get the 210 resets per 20 improvements. Then of course there's also the 1 emergency reset kit, which you can use to reset your generator right after a pulverize, but don't wait too long as you only have 5 minutes after you do the pulverize to use them. And you always want to make sure you leave 1 generator open when you're doing this. Use the most efficient strategy for getting it back up to level 12,000. So if you're at 15k station, the first time you do it, you only need to do it 500 times. And when you're at the 12,000 level, it's 3 500s and then the 2,000. Then, like I said, if you have the emergency reset kits to reset one, then reset a generator. And then, of course, you're going to want to leave the station at level 12,000. And with your open generator, you're going to spend the reset kits you used from improvements on actually gaining the upgrading you need to do another round of pulverization. And then, of course, when your generators actually get back to the point you can reset them again, of course do another run of pulverizing, keeping 1 generator open all the time. What this will essentially do is allow you to continuously play as you're generating reset kits every hour with pulverizing. Now the only thing you have to be careful about is if it's around 3 o'clock UG time, make sure you get your stations back up to level 15,000 to get your reset kits per day. Now there are alternatives to the strategy. One of the examples is if you're a pay-to-play person and can afford to get the blacks needed to do this, you'll remember that for every heavy pulverize, you also get the 1 emergency reset kit. So you can essentially just use the 1 emergency reset kit 300 black reset after every pulverize and continuously pulverize for a massive tactic boost that way. Then go about using your power improvements to gain reset kits to regain all the upgrading you need. Or you can even skip the turning in power improvements for reset kits if you're spending blacks on the gambling packs to get reset kits. Then you can just put the power improvements right into tactic. This will of course be expensive cost-wise, as you'll be using blacks for resetting your generators as well as producing reset kits. And if you're going to spend the blacks on doing it that way, I would more recommend you actually spend the power improvements on attribute points instead, as it will increase your ship strength. Because one of the major flaws of power leveling on any game is you become a really high tactic with relatively low strengths compared to everyone else around you. Now, the advantages of this strategy are, of course, you're going to generate a lot of pulverizing points, which if you're under your reset limit cap of 100 from pulverizing, will of course give you more resets so you can do more in a day, and can make this strategy easier to implement as you'll be getting more per hour, meaning you can essentially play longer to get the upgradium you need. As well as when you hit certain tiers in pulverizing points, you end up getting colony points per hour. Another thing, if you do this long enough, your stations will reach the maximum of 250% durability, at which point you should fully upgrade that station and then move on to the next one. And if you manage to get all your stations up to 250 durability doing this, you'll have a nice long period of not having to pay at all for your station repair costs. The disadvantages, of course, are you essentially need a lot of time to do this, but also, unless you can make a lot over the amount of upgrading you need, you're essentially not making any caps. Which, if you're not making any profit, you of course won't have the upgradium needed to do a lot of the higher tactics things, like buy more powerful fleets, or buy a lot of the higher end unique devices for upgradium. Now, of course, to combine all three of these strategies together, do a run of 3 pulverizing, continuously do pirate quests to gain upgradium in the nukes, and nuke any galaxies that either don't have the pirates you need anymore or are out of pirates, and you can essentially generate thousands of tactic per hour.